Different.
Yeah, no,
It's 9 o'clock.
I wouldn't-
Call the meeting to order. Please rise. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Pipestone County Commissioners, September 24, 2024. In attendance are Commissioner Luke Johnson, Doug Nagel, Dan Wildermuth, Chris Hollingworth, myself, Dallas Roskamp. Also present is Steve Ewing, County Administrator, Carrie Meneses, County HR. Any opinions on the agenda? Any changes needed?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple items here, please. On the consent agenda, item number 4, hospital warrants, please enter the number $586,146.62. 586, 146, 62. And with Engineer Bergman's road and bridge items, please add right-of-way payment, SAP -059 -599 -112. And IT Director Folger will not be here at 10:45, so I'll present the Triman IFS contracts. We can get that signed and not delay it for 2 weeks. So just basically a formality to have the board approve that.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have on this agenda for corrections.
With those adjustments, I'll move the agenda.
Thank you. Is there support for that?
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. It carries. And the consent agenda, approved minutes of 9/10/24, approved commissioner warrants, approved auditors warrants of 9/13/24 and 9/20/24. Approved hospital warrants of $586,146.62.
Jared, move for approval.
Thank you. Is there support?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Mr. Nick. Morning, Nick.
Morning. All right, for me today, would be a request to purchase some tires. We did some motor grader tires last week. We're doing truck tires today, so it's different, but we'd like to purchase 10 plow truck tires. These are off the state contract. We got 2 bids. I'd recommend going with the low bid, WW Tire out of Bryant, South Dakota.
Approval of a little bit, WW Tire.
Thank you. Is there support for that?
I was.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I have a little bit.
Yep.
And I know this has probably been a long time ago, Nick. Didn't we, at one time, these maintenance items, didn't we say that you could just go, if they're in your budget, we could just go ahead and purchase them without bringing them?
Yes, but doesn't,
That was back with Dave even, that's been a while.
But it depends on the total dollar amount.
yeah, I think that's
No,
what
I
figured it.
think if they were maintenance items, so.
Okay,
Okay, I'm fine doing that.
No, well, Steve would have to look it up or something. I'm just saying that it did get changed, I thought, so.
Check on that. I just did it for transparency.
If they were
transparency's
maintenance,
sake,
if they were
so-
maintenance and in the
Yeah.
budget, I thought.
Okay.
we could-
Nope, I'm good with that. I just thought if you see a $5,000 bill, it might be, oh. So
Well, for tires, I mean, that is a maintenance. item.
they used to be a lot cheaper, so. Much to trip the thresholds now for those. So
Just,
that's fine. I'll do that.
We see a lot of bills for 5,000 or more in our
Okay.
bill.
yeah. Okay.
Chair. I just have a question regarding the state contract price. I mean, when you get quotes from different vendors and there's a difference, if it's the state contract price, what accounts for the difference?
A credit for the old ones.
Okay.
The one supplier hasn't, they've just been taking them, or there's 0 credit versus the one gives us a little bit of credit. So that's the difference, but otherwise, so I mean, here it would have been what, $20 a tire
Right,
for the
right.
old ones. So
Sure.
that's why it's That's why the number looks so similar. And last week they bid the exact same on the tires, but it was the credit that was $250 difference or something weird
Sure.
like that, but yeah. So that's what does that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Mr. Chair, I assume that the other tires were Michelin's as well, exact same tire.
Correct. Yep. Yep. We actually quoted two different models of Michelin's, and they were within just a few dollars. So we took the one that performed better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like $6 difference or something minute. So
Then what do we do about mounting?
we do that ourselves.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried.
Okay, next up for me would be, requests to restock our culverts. Two bids here. They're government prices and, all the pipes are galvanized and riveted. So I'd recommend going with low bid from True North Steel for $24,436.04.
Move for approval.
Okay, is there support for that? Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, on this one, what accounts for the difference if it's a government price?
I believe the shipping. Nope.
Okay,
And markup, I suppose. Some people want more markup.
Are they both off the government price, Nick? Or just one of them is off government price?
Maybe only the one is then.
Use the government price.
We asked for that, but
Yeah, the government pricing, all the bidding should be done with everybody,
Yeah.
basically. So if you're, looking up the government price and then you're still checking another company, that's probably why you're.
maybe that's what it was, but I
Oh,
stressed to him that I wanted that, so, well, it's either that or the other bidder beat it, which I don't know how they would, but either way, I mean,
Unless
it's,
they're both on the government contract, and they probably would be, I would think.
oh, sure, like their bids for the.
You just
Yeah,
are
I see what
listing
you're
both
saying.
government
Yeah.
prices.
Right.
I know for some things, like one we're gonna do later, there was a difference in the freight costs.
Yeah.
Right, and there would be that
wouldn't
here
be
too,
that
but
kind
it
of
wouldn't be
money.
that much,
Right,
that much, so, yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried.
Next item, I received an email back from Megan DeShepper as a follow-up for the MnDOT chip presentation. She answered two questions here. The one, she said, District 7 has a Highway 75 project in their plan slated for 2028. It's described as a resurface from Veterans Drive in Laverne to County Road 9. The next question, she said the blinking chevron project on Minnesota 30 near the South Dakota border was scrapped as the technology is not very reliable and it didn't seem like the cost benefit ratio was appropriate. She went on to say that there will be a district-wide chevron project where chevrons will be placed at various locations in the district. So that's what they're gonna do here. And she also noted the first chevron in each direction will be LED flashing, so. Does that answer all the questions she had there? Or that we had?
The signs.
Yep, I'll get to that next. That was, I had separately, but other than that,
Yep.
I don't remember anything else, but if there's something else, I could follow up with her. Okay. Then, next for that, I received a response from MnDOT on my questions for those town signs. He said the state is doing a trial on signs right now. They're removing what he called the wayfinder signs. Those would be the town names. They'd like drivers to look for route markers instead. He said the wayfinder signs are another sign in the right of way that can block view, and they'd like drivers to focus more on the intersections. He also added that not replacing these signs will save a lot of money. But he did reiterate that it was just a trial and they would revisit reinstalling them if needed but he didn't want to react too fast. So they'd like to try this for a little while first. And then, the guy did give me his contact information and said if anybody wants to talk to him directly, I can feel free to share that. So,
Make sure Jill gets that, put that in the paper. He can get phone call this guy.
sure.
This is all a bunch of garbage.
Okay. Yep, I can do that.
In fact, if I may, Nick, I would like to invite him to our meeting so he can explain to us the rationale on this. I don't understand what he's talking about. What's the other option he's talking about?
Somebody messed up and they're trying to
It's like
cover.
120th Avenue or something like.
Oh, yeah, addresses.
Yes.
Yeah.
10 this way.
Of course, no County 9 goes to Edgerton. They don't need a sign.
People aren't gonna know that. So no, if you guys would feel it'd be appropriate, I'd love to have him come here and explain to us.
Especially visitors, they're not gonna
No.
know.
They talked about low visibility of the signs too, but there's no visibility when there's no sign.
That's right.
Right.
Remember that, Nick, remember that study, I don't know, real long ago, but the state said they were gonna try to put less signs out because there's so many that people weren't even seeing
Looking
them.
at them.
Right.
Yep.
It had been, I don't know.
And then
It's
there's,
been 5 years ago now.
yep, and there's, as I would assume that was probably coupled with, they call them unsupported signs or something like
Yeah,
that, like
yeah.
the deer crossing and stuff
You know,
like
like-
that, yeah.
School bus ahead, that, you
Yeah.
know, all those types of things, they were cutting back on that.
Yep, I would imagine this is part of that.
Well,
Saves money, figure it doesn't do any good. It's one less object to be hit too, so, yeah. But I'm guessing on that. I'm
No,
guessing
I-
that's what the reasoning is, so.
You're still,
Yeah, seems how he made the offer. If anybody had any questions, yes, we've got questions, come talk to us.
Sure. Yeah, I'll reach out and see what I get for a response. So. Next up for me, a little bit of an outside the box idea. We would like to try going from 3 engineering technicians down to 2. It's, getting hard to find people to fill these positions. So we'd like to try just having 2 instead of 3. That would mean we'd need to, hire some work done. We're thinking we would hire our grading plans. We'd continue to survey and design our seal coats, overlays and culvert projects ourselves. This newer software that, we used to buy it and it was the same thing for like 5 years, but now it's every year it's changing. That's, it's subscription based now instead of just buying it and owning it. Changes a lot. It's really complicated to run. We don't do many grading jobs. We only do one probably on average, I'm guessing every 3 years. So by the time we go to use it again, you're kind of relearning it all. So we were thinking, that would be a good trial, worthwhile trial for us. That would leave us a little short on inspection help during the summertime, but, we were thinking maybe we could offer some of the basic MnDOT certifications to some of our maintenance workers, see if there's any interest there. And then possibly to incentivize that, we'd maybe look at increasing our stipend, for when they help do engineering work. Depending on our summer, we still might need an intern, possibly if there's not enough maintenance worker help, but just an idea, not saying we need that, but trying to think through the different possible outcomes here. This would just be a trial, but we're pretty confident that it's gonna save us pretty decent money, so, but if it doesn't work out, if we don't like it, or if it doesn't save us as much as we thought, we could always go back to hiring a third. It's not like the other way of, saying increasing your number of positions and then trying to backpedal from that, so I think just minimal downside to trying this, but and that process would be similar to our bridge design process, like, we hire out for a consultant there, we put out for bids on it, so we do the same, it'd just be for grading projects too, so.
could you get a summer intern in the technician area?
Possibly,
Possibly.
yeah, possibly, but
That's,
we've done that before, sometimes it works good, sometimes
Not
not
so
so good. Yeah. My thought was if it doesn't impact maintenance too much and we found a couple good guys back there, maybe that would be the best way to go, so. There's a lot of unknowns here, but, we think it's worth a shot, so. I guess if that's all right with you guys, we'd like to try that out anyway, so.
Do you need a action on that or just for the information?
I think so, just,
No,
So either.
we need
No,
action.
just, anybody have any concerns with it or anything else we
I
may
think
be
it's a good
missing? or
idea.
something we can
I
do?
was just gonna ask what the stipend is now for
$1 an
maintenance
hour, I
to-
think.
$1 an hour
I think
when
it's-
they're helping engineering.
Yep. Yep. So I don't know what fair would be on top of that, but you know, if we increase that a little bit to make people want to do that work, then, you know, that might be exactly what we need then. So might work out great, but
And you can use maintenance anyway.
yep,
I mean, you don't need a volunteer, actually, but
right.
if you need like someone to do something and sit there and, you know, for an inspection or something. I remember, you know, way back, maintenance would help with like blue tops and when the work was a little different, you needed a little more help back then.
Yeah. Not many people know what that is anymore.
Well, no. I know,
GPS
but-
kind of took
but
the
I
place
mean,
of that. but
And
yeah.
they,
I know.
maintenance did help before, so it's nothing new, is what I'm saying.
They've been helping now from time to time, but I'd like to find somebody who is like really
Oh, no,
into that.
that's ideal, I'm saying, but if you absolutely need somebody.
Yep,
yeah.
and we've done that. We've done that, but I'd like to get it to where I find someone who's really good at it and really,
Oh, yeah.
I'd feel better about that, so, yeah. All right, well, we'll try. I'll let you know how it goes, but it'll probably be a long process before we get a good feel of it, but,
Yeah, it's nice and I appreciate the communication with us, but again, it's your department. You got the
Yep.
autonomy, which you think is right there, so.
it's, the thing is, like, say we hire a design consultant, and you get that bill for 30, 50,000 or whatever it is, you know, it might be, whoa, kind of sticker shock, but then when you realize you're saving 90 or 100 a year, whatever on an employee, you know, it's definitely offset, but, it's a big bill to get, so, for that design work, but. Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what we were up to and, see if I'm missing anything, so. All right, next up for me would be, a request to, approve a right-of-way payment. It's for a project or for a culvert up by Ruthven. Nothing real fancy about this one. It's a little bit bigger area with some fence on it. That's why it's a little bit higher than what we're used to seeing.
Move to approve. Thank you. There's second.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Is this a permanent right away or temporary right?
Permanent.
Okay.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried.
Lastly, for me, this is kind of short notice. I don't have all the information yet, but we had the frame on an old pup break yesterday. It's a pup from 1985. And I'm not convinced it's worth fixing. So, it's one of our two oldest ones. I'll know more later, but I might ask I have it in the budget to buy a frame for that good box we have.
Mhm.
I might be back shortly to ask to order that now, so we have it in time for gravel hauling next year. So just a heads up, I don't know enough.
If I may then. So then the box that's on this one that just broke recently, is that box worth putting a new frame underneath?
I'd say I doubt it.
They've been fixed and fixed and fixed, they're old,
The box is,
the whole rig,
yeah.
1985 and it's all the lot.
they've been around.
Looking at it, I'm getting,
Okay, it's not bad, it's not rusted out, or, you
Right.
know, but it's pretty old. It would be a good time to probably upgrade.
Yeah.
So
It's
you're-
not worth putting a new frame underneath that box.
I wouldn't be, and he's got that other new
Sure.
box. so,
Yep.
Yeah,
so before we dive too much into this, I'm getting the feeling from you that you probably wouldn't spend a whole lot of time and effort trying to fix this one.
not being you have this other box.
Okay, okay. That's what I'm leaning towards. but
Well,
So that-
how many pups are you sitting with now? I'm not even sure.
think we have two newer good ones, these two old ones from the mid-80s, and that one box from 2019 that's only got a couple years use on it, so.
And you were planning on putting the frame under that new box anyway.
And decommissioning
Yeah, that
one
would,
of these from the mid-80s. It wasn't gonna be this one, it was gonna be the other one.
now it's this one.
No, it's this one, yeah.
Yeah, that other one's been parked, I think, all year. That's got all kinds of issues, cylinder and the brakes are shot and the tires are shot. And we
But you
just,
could be swapping, if you could, the one that's broke, you could swap to that one you're kind of decommissioning too.
yeah, we might Frankenstein them back together, get a few more years out of them, but I'll probably be looking at replacing that one in the fairly near future.
We'd have three. pretty new
Three really nice,
ones If we do that.
yeah, three nice ones and an old. Cross your
But we
fingers.
had, you know, for years, we ran with three,
Correct.
so
Yep.
it'd be nice to have one extra.
Yep, yep, and I've had requests before, like, wow, we should have five nice ones. Well, like Doug's,
Yeah.
you don't have manpower to keep them running, you know, we got
Mhm.
5 truck routes, but that's just how it works, so. So. All right, well, that's just that's what I know right now. Probably more info to follow on that, so.
Thanks for the picture again.
Yep. Photo?
That's what the guts of that bridge look like. It's it was neat. Not what I expected, but I didn't know what to expect, so maybe I guess that is what I expected.
Do they have a completion date yet or
Um,
freeze up?
yeah, I heard November 1st, but we'll see. We'll see.
Thanksgiving, maybe?
Yeah, kind of depends when the subs can get in there and do their things.
Sure.
Paving subs on this one, so. But either way, then I am looking into some ribbon cutting options, so.
Have they started to do some of the fill on this, or is it still wide open?
Yep, I'm gonna go down there after this and it might be, they might have backfill over the arch by the time I get there.
And forgive me for just thinking out loud.
Don't go
It
for it.
just occurred to me now with my background with utilities. Would it make any sense to stub in a couple of conduits into that now before we backfill that? Because we're never gonna want anybody to hang anything off the side of that bridge. Just consider that.
Doesn't look like there's anything now.
Yeah.
Nothing there now and
But if
all
we got a
that's,
piece of interduct, throw a piece of interduct in there just in case somewhere down the line, someone needs to run telephone line or fiber optic line or something through it.
they might be past that point by now. Not saying you couldn't dig it up, but it's probably to the point it'd be a change order and we'd have to pay extra.
Oh, okay, never mind. then.
Um,
I didn't know how far they were at the backfill stage.
yeah, that picture is from, I think, the 10th September. Yesterday when I was there, they had it built up to the road on both sides and then it was in and then just angled down a little bit by the top of the arch. So I'm
Too
thinking
late.
it's probably done by
Too late.
now.
That's fine.
Yeah, I wish I would have thought of that earlier because I probably would have done it. It's not a bad idea at all, but
Practically, how late can you pour asphalt? All weather related?
MinDOT shuts you down, I think November 1, unless you have engineer approval. We paved the bottom lift on County Road 16 up until the end of October. And I was out there on site as an inspector and I remember it was like 36 degrees out with like a 30-mile-an-hour wind and it was absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
And if the plants stay open.
Yeah.
Sometimes the plants shut down.
So if it's like a stationary plant, I'm sure they shut down earlier, but if,
Oh, I was talking like the plant out of Marshall or something, so.
Yeah, that I
That'd be-
don't-
No, that'd be different.
they
Sorry.
probably shut down in few weeks, I'm guessing. So they're getting, yes, you're correct. They're getting close to shutdown time. so.
Edgerton's getting asphalt from someplace yet, so they're laying yesterday.
Still open.
Yeah, okay.
One other question I got for you, Nick. Did you make it to the Murray County shop?
I did.
Grand opening.
I did.
Pretty special, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Were you there?
I was there.
Okay, well, just so you know, I will not be asking for those anytime. Will not be asking for.
That's good because we hate you to be disappointed.
Yeah,
They-
no, it's something special, but
Mechanics gonna lose weight, go us walking across the shop.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, they're physically larger than us and I think, I don't think they have any satellite shops. So it's part of why theirs is so much bigger. but
Okay, that's why there was so much equipment in there.
Yeah,
Wow.
everything is,
Everything was there for the open house, I'm sure, but
yep. I did ask them.
I did not count how many pieces were in there, but it was a lot.
It was a lot. None of the plows had, sanders or wings or none of the trucks had the front plows on or the sanders or the wings, but you know, once they get all that on, it'll take up a lot more room, so it probably won't look quite like
Quite as
that.
big as it does looks now.
Right.
They did have did you see they dared put the sign up there, what it cost?
No, I didn't see
You didn't
that.
see that?
No.
What was it?
16.9, I think.
Oh,
16,900,000.
okay.
And they had it where it came from, where the money came from. And there was a great big unfunded one in the middle there that they're gonna have to work on, I guess.
Okay, well,
I didn't want to stand there and take a picture of it because I had my Pipestone County shirt on, so.
oh, okay.
And had several people say, oh, Pipestone County's you're looking. Okay, I should have wore the wrong shirt.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. I liked it, but don't worry.
They aren't gonna hire you away?
No.
Okay, that's good.
So. Yeah, any other questions for me? Otherwise, that's it. That's all I had for today.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Heyman. Chief Deputy Heyman, sorry. Get the right title here.
Okay.
Members of the board, a couple things today. First thing on the vehicles, is that what we were up first with?
Yep. Yes.
I guess I put a packet together for everyone to take a look at. Fairly self-explanatory. Was there any questions?
I guess I was probably wondering about trades, Mike, what year they are, how many miles are on them.
Yeah. Yep. So, we'll have two trades, at this point. You know, depending any mechanical issues that might happen to something else.
Right.
Both 2019 Rams would be the trade. Right around 100,000 miles on each of them. Little hard to know for sure where we'll be at because we don't know a specific, delivery date. But we are thinking that these will come a little quicker than we're used to. It's been 11 to 12 months. They're saying maybe 120 days. So that's why we're kind of at the time frame we're at now, because we don't want to take delivery of them before January 1 or have to pay for them in 24, which is 25 budgeted money. Hoping that trade-ins values will land us right where we're budgeted. Right around $15,000 for each trade-in is what we'll need. That's kind of where we've been landing the last few years on the ones we've been trading back in. So that's kind of where we're at. This whole trade-in thing's been kind of a moving target since a few years ago. It's just things changed a little bit. We used to kind of be able to have the numbers for you right away, and now we just can't yet. They're a little hesitant to give them to us, knowing when the vehicles for surely won't come. So, what date for sure they're
The
gonna come.
15's an estimate.
That's an estimate,
Right,
yep.
yeah.
And that's kind of where we've been the last 2 years on those Rams. We've been trading in with the same kind of mileage. And so that's kind of using that figure, puts us about right where we have for the budget in 25 for those two.
Flexibility of the vehicle, a pickup versus the SUV, that's still gonna work for you.
Yeah, so the question might come up is why a Dodge Durango? 2 reasons they're available. They are the most reasonably priced overall. And then the competitive bid process that we used. The main reason why we stuck with wanting to go with those Durangos is right now we have equipment for upfitting for one complete Durango we have here. from an order that got canceled 2 years ago. So we had the equipment here already and we have that, so we might as well use that. And then, so with that being said, and then a lot of the equipment for the Durangos are just a little easier to get right now and a little more reasonable. I mean, equipment like the upfitting equipment, the partitions, the transport, back seat areas, the consoles that we put all the stack of equipment in, those kinds of things, computer mounts, that stuff. So.
But in the field, they're interchangeable as far as their versatility.
Yeah, I mean, we find that these are all-wheel drives. I mean, we find that they're just as usable. Of course, the pickups we can get a little more usability out of if we need to haul cargo, but there's just as much need for having an enclosed place to put stuff to, especially for our people like our canine handlers, our heat team operator. They need a place to be able to put stuff in that's
Out of the elements. Yep.
elements and sealed up decent. And that gets to be a challenge sometimes on the pickups. You know, gravel roads can get to be, the equipment we're using is a lot, especially this time of year right now. It's terrible. It's expensive stuff to be putting back there and filling with dirt and dust and, you know. So yeah, there's an equal amount of usage for that. We were going with a 6-cylinder in the past. We've had a lot of problems with the 6-cylinder engines the last 2 years in the Durangos. Thankfully, all those problems have been under warranty. So we haven't had an out-of-pocket cost, but this year we switched to the Hemi engine for that reason. You know, we feel like when they basically rebuilt these last couple, we're on a third engine now on the older Durangos, the 3 cars each individually. Feel like when they've changed what they've needed to change in those, that they're running well now. So we're hoping as we move out of warranty on them, we're not. But that was the one thing that did change, and that did raise the price a little bit, but I think it offsets our expenses in the long run for the problems we've been having with that V6. So yeah, just what I'm asking for then is just for action, and you guys, if you're interested in us going ahead and then moving forward with the PAPIC bid.
Yep, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the bid for Papping Motors.
Is there support for that?
Second.
Any other discussion?
And I've got just a comment about budgeting. It's 25 budget, you said.
Yes.
Okay. And we're not really done with the 25 budget. We're gonna need to make any changes. Would this affect any changes we're making or?
No. No reason it should.
Yeah, because this was factored in when you made your
Mhm.
proposed budget.
Yeah, the numbers we're using today in this presentation would be the numbers that are sitting in that proposed.
Right, but we're not final. But
Nope.
No.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Not carried.
The next item was our contract between Pipestone County 2689, which is the Pipestone area resource officer. We've been in talks with the school superintendent and principals since May. Over the summer and then into last week, we come with an agreement, a proposal for this board and the school board to take a look at and see if we could go back into another agreement here. Moving forward through the 24-25 school year and the 25-26 school year. If you point to or go back to Exhibit A, a few page packet, that a tentative agreement's been made between the administrations on both sides for the 24-25 school year for $57,750. 25-26 school year for $61,215. And obviously this needs to be brought to the school board yet too, but we needed to start, so we'd get it on your guys' agenda today to see what your guys' thoughts were.
What was the amount for the past year? What was the dollar amount on our last contracts?
I don't know if I have that in front of me. Do you have a budget?
Last one, let's see. 23, it was 49,251. Approximately 51,000, 25,626 has been paid to date so far. Maybe about 52,000.
And then my obvious question is what makes up that difference of that increase from last year, this 25-1, and then for the 25 to the 26-1, we see quite an increase over these next three contracts.
2 years. About $12,000 in 2 years.
Yeah. Is it mostly labor cost? Is that what we're looking
Well,
at?
That's what we're formulating is the increased cost in the last couple of years that we've taken on through labor agreement contracts and such. We're not changing the operations day to day at this point. Changing the obligations, of having to be there more. Still providing that and the equipment to support the program the same.
In the bulk of its labor costs, and our last
Raise and
union
benefits.
negotiations were a 20% increase.
Mhm.
And then this, just it's obvious, I think, but to add, this is a portion of what the county has for this particular position. I mean, the county has obviously, county's also paying,
Right.
for this office.
Yeah, I
And
understand that.
we're utilizing that officer off school year time. And then even during the school year time too, when needed, of course. So, and that's just a mutual agreement that's always worked well between us and the school district. And if there's anything, we just talk about it and figure it out through operations.
But my only question is there's not a shifting of costs here through this contract from the school district to the county's budget. This
This would be the school district's increase paid
Right.
to the county.
Yep.
Through Chair, I'd move for approval.
And I will second.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
These resource officers been working since, this program's been working since I've been in high school, and it's still to this day a very great program.
Absolutely.
Nothing but positive.
And you
comments
talk
on
about
it, so.
value for our investment here. It certainly is there. And I really, really appreciate how well this has worked.
Any other discussion? Who is the resource officer now?
Right now, Deputy Brian Danks is assigned to that school district.
And he's willing to continue on in that area. That's good.
But at this point, I mean, we never know what life brings to any of us, but
No,
that's right.
we don't see any differences that we're having. He hasn't shown us any different interests.
Well, and he's built that relationship with the students too. That's so key.
And I will say also that the school district had the same comments that you guys just shared. And it's always interesting when we share positions like this. And when we have someone in another location that's administered differently, but an employee of the county, there's always questions and things that come up. What is this person supposed to be doing? Who's managing this person?
Yep.
Well, sheriff's office is because the person's working under the authority of the sheriff. But obviously, the communication between us and the school has been great. And it remains great. And there are things that they like to see and we like to see, and we go back and forth, and it works real good.
And that trust not only with the students, but with the administration. And it's so easy from an outside perspective to say, well, we never see him here. He doesn't get here at 7:30 sharp or whatever the case might be, but they have no concept of what he's doing and what his day is. It's that trust that he develops. He's not punching a time clock.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of responsibilities, and so it's easy for people to not fully comprehend what he's doing there. And he's just, again, commend the whole department for the great job he's doing.
And just like public safety to a community, public safety to a school district changes. It's got its own heartbeat. It changes day to day. You got to be willing to change with it.
Yep, absolutely.
My kids in the summertime fun program there, so I go to the school a lot, during the summer, dropping them off and picking them up, and I see Brian too, just home in the parking lot too, just
That's right.
Just to show presence there too. So.
Yep. But you don't see him every day at the exact same time because he's not on that routine. He floats, he's flexible, and he has to be flexible to be effective at his job.
Fantastic work. So,
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carries.
Thank you.
Express our appreciation to Officer Dinks for the work that he does there.
That's, yep, very much, and appreciate the support like always. That goes a long way, so.
excellent.
It's up to you, just what time are you?
Just hang on, we can do HR.
What are you conspiring over there?
I think she-
HR next, as long as Mike's here.
Sure.
Yeah.
it's just a personnel item that I think.
Mike,
That he's involved with?
Yeah.
Come on down, Kerry. You're up. Somebody's up.
Okay, well, back somewhere. It's for,
Taylor?
final offer, we have dispatch position for this candidate pay scale B22 step C, which is 26 cents per hour. That is this in is fluent, bilingual. He also training experience. He's great. This is a very huge bargain, in my opinion, so. He's been managing. Super well communicated person.
It's official law. I found the paperwork, so.
And just to add to Keith's comment, I can't stress enough that bilingual,
and
the capabilities are there. It's not just being able to, interpretate, speaking it, he can interpret or handwriting as well. Quality. Someone being able to interpretate fluently like that, and that would be great. Jail. Pay for them services now. Because we can't let correspondences go back and forth, knowing what these correspondences say, so. But it is a big step in the right direction, I think, for adding a pretty valuable person to the staff.
Yeah.
In private, if this gentleman had come across my desk, I would offer him a lot more money. I would snatch him up and I would keep him forever.
Yeah, in the private industry, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Okay, is there support for that?
Yes. Dan will support.
Thank you.
Did have a chance to talk about it a little briefly on a personnel committee, and applicants like this don't come around every day, so.
And
Verbally accept, so he'll be excited to get his written offer today and hopefully we can get him on board quickly.
I would also add with a lot of good candidates too. And I think that speaks volumes to that last contract negotiations as well. Not that we haven't had good candidates in the past, but there was a lot of good options here for us, we felt.
Yeah.
And so, you know,
Had 5 interviews,
Yep.
right?
and I can speak to the effectiveness of having an interpreter at the Latino concert on the Fair Board. You know, the gal that helped me is just wonderful. Just be able to speak fluently in Spanish and
and we use other interpreters, and we're gonna continue to still have to use them.
yeah.
But it certainly is helpful when they're on staff for a lot of reasons.
Well, it's worth saying as well too. It's nice that our sheriff's department also shows that they are also diverse in the community. As the community changes, we change and we all evolve and develop, and it just makes all of us still part of the same whole unit. It's terrific.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. Thank you all.
Are we gonna do the rest of the?
Sure, we got some time
You
before
good?
10. I got my other HR sheet of paper, so. Won't spend-
There's two other requests for board action. Well, actually three. We'll hit the hiring ones first. So quick update. The openings that we have right now, one for the jailer dispatch that we just talked about, and the other two are pending requests here. So second item is for the highway department, the highway maintenance. We have a candidate that we feel is fit. He is working for MnDOT right now. He has his CDL. And we would like to offer him step C on B21, $25.05. I will tell you that a lot of discussion was had about this offer, just because we just brought on a couple candidates, one who at the level A. The other candidate started at level C with 20 years of CDL over the road driving experience. This candidate does not have 20 years of over the road driving experience, but he does have 1 year at MnDOT and has used all of the equipment and has worked in the structure of the department. So everyone feels that this is appropriate and fair, and they're ready to have conversations with their staff to justify this.
Mr. Chair, I'll move for approval.
Thank you. Is there support? And was he a MnDOT employee locally or some other part of this?
2 miles away, so he farms too. He lives a couple miles away from the shop right here in town, so seems like a really good fit.
Okay.
Nice young man.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried.
The third position that we have open is EMT. And we had 4 internal candidates and 1 external candidate, and we interviewed all of those people. And the recommendation to offer the position internal candidate to go from part-time to full-time. Also requesting anyone step C at 2505. This one's based on years of medical experience, which I have no validation for. I'm totally trusting in Casey and Cole's expertise in this area.
This person gave me a flu shot well over 20 years ago, so I can speak to her experience.
If he's got experience on it.
You're still alive, right?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve this
I'll second.
hire.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Did she give you a lollipop after this?
Unfortunately.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried.
Last item, I'm a little bit nervous about presenting because it's a lot of data. And you have a lot of information in your packet about the county contribution for 2025 for health insurance premiums and HSA. An increase that averaged 4.1% on health insurance premiums. Dental insurance premiums went up 4% as well, but we don't contribute to that, so that didn't affect this at all. Based on that information, preliminary, Steve and I worked together and I think he budgeted 5%.
Yes, indeed, I did.
Station that we are bringing to you today is approximately a 4% increase to both levels of contribution. And there's a comparison of last year to this year here on the action. What we did last year versus what we're recommending for this year. And then you also have the quotes from Prime Health, the ancillary quotes, and the draft of the 2025 benefits handbook, which has changed a little bit. Include some compliance rate related items that I think would be good to get involved in this handbook so that everyone has a printed copy.
Mr. Chairman and board members, just for budget information, in 2021, our single coverage was budgeted 11,500 for single, and 24 family was 18,032. And I budgeted 5% increase for 25. Single moved to 12,075, and family went to 18,934. And we're slightly below that with the quotes that we received from insurance going forward. And there was a slight change in HSA dollars, went from 1,300 to 1,350, wasn't it? Or
1,600 to 1,650.
For HSA.
3,200 to 3,300.
Right.
And we're not recommending any changes to our existing structure of what been. Everything seems to be working pretty well.
How much does the employee share go up? Have any idea about
We
that?
covered the spread, so their cost will not go up.
We did that last year, I know. So we're gonna do the same thing this year.
That's what.
Proposal.
Well, make sure the employees know that.
Yes, because again, that shows our support for them.
We
Yeah.
talk about total compensation a lot because it's not just the sum of these benefits, it's the holiday pay and the vacation time and there's a pretty generous package for total comp. As well as knowing how long you're gonna work each day. That's a bit of constant, safety that we offer as well that private doesn't offer. So I think I can use my own example when talking through that. And I have a lot with some of the candidates that have come in. I feel like we're winning the battle on that.
And our county's not gonna change. We're not gonna get bigger or smaller.
Right.
We always have to do a certain amount of things.
There's a
like that.
consistency that comes with that.
Sure. I know a lot of us are dealing with other boards right now, dealing with the same proposals and stuff like that too. And the one comment I have to make is this health insurance increase. I haven't seen anything on any other board I've been on that's under 10%. Yeah, 10.
Don't tell her.
So that's fantastic.
Better hit the mute button.
Right.
I'm assuming it's attached to our usage. So our demographic, and our usage,
that
but I
program.
haven't sat in on any of those meetings yet.
Speaks to the program.
Prime Health, exactly. That was a
Yes.
great decision that we made to go with Prime Health and
And we've been making a lot of similar tough discussions and decisions, but but that's fantastic to see that.
I just, I can't state enough how I feel that we owe this to our employees. And it's inflation and those of us that have bought our own health insurance throughout the what a major hit that is in our. So for us to be able to absorb that rate increase, it shows our commitment. And that's also why we'll go back to these hires that we just made. That's why we're able to recruit good people. We expect good work. You need good workers. You got good workers. You got to be able to compensate them fairly. So I fully support this.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the county contribution and insurance offering for this.
Okay, is there a second to that? Dan will second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. But carried. We weren't too scary, were we?
Board members.
We weren't too scary.
Scary, come on now. Stuff. Talk about people.
There we go.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just want to take this opportunity to thank Carrie for all her diligent work on this and pouring through all this with me and working together with her. And she's very knowledgeable on benefits. And it shows very well. And she did a very good job putting this together for us. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Carrie.
I mean, of her hiring and everything that walking right into this whole, everything, just thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And you were afraid you were gonna be bored.
The public hearing is a time sensitive at 10
Yes,
o'clock.
that is.
Okay. Why don't we take a 5-minute break? then?
Okay.
For that.
All right.
We're back in session. On the agenda right now is the public hearing for a home tax abatement. Is there a motion to start the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Public hearing is open.
Application. From Kelly Cruz. And the actual owner of the property is the city of Edgerton current.
Excuse me.
Plans, building permit, all that sort of thing. With the application, so there's nothing that I know of that's missing.
Chairman, the only thing you have different in here is you have the resolution for the tax abatement that to be developed for it.
All seems to be completely in order, so I will move that we approve the tax abatement for the the Brent and Kelly.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? I think 750,000 should cover it. Put that right in the assessor's notes. Any other discussion on rented house? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried.
Move to close the public hearing.
There's support for that.
Second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Public hearing is closed. Back to regular business.
Thanks, Amanda.
Alice, how's your last name pronounced?
Cruzy. Or cruise, that's. they vary.
That's what,
They
that's what had me
vary.
confused. I would think cruise, but I saw, well, no, it doesn't look like cruise.
After a public opinion, they're not all related, so. Have different pronunciation.
Perfect. Chris is here.
And Kyle's not, so we jump.
Sure.
Are you ready, Chris?
Oh.
Nothing like fucking in. Oh, you can wait if you want. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, so.
I do my best when I put it together, but. Oh.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Chris Webb. I'm a transportation planner over at the Southwest Regional Development Division. A few of you have seen it at some meetings, so nice to see you all this. I'm here this morning to give an update on the Southwest Minnesota Regional Trails Plan. So it's a one-page handout. I'll kind of go through that. You can follow along. Just a little kind of background. So in 2022, the SRDC began a process. They applied to the federal EDA agency for a grant to create a regional trails plan. And so as they were going through that, because it was a federal grant, it provided 80% of the funds. So back then, the SRDC staff went to all of our counties in our region and asked for $3,000 as a matching. And so 8 of the 9 counties provided that $3,000 matching funds. And so now that the plan is coming to an end, we are hitting all of our counties, all of our funding partners to give you an update on the plan and where we're at with everything.
Which county did not?
Redwood. So we did have 4 cities in Redwood County that provided some funding. So we're also reaching out to those city councils and giving presentations to them as well. So, really the vision behind doing a regional trails plan was to create a shared vision of what a regional trail network could be in our area. Right now, we have a lot of great trails throughout our region, right? So we've got Casey Jones State Trail, we got the city trails in the area, the city here of Pipestone, which are wonderful trails. There's the Camden Regional Trail, which goes around the city of Marshall and down to Camden State Park. Mountain Lake over in Cottonwood County has a wonderful trail loop. I could go on and on, right? So we've got a lot of great trails in our region, but they're all separated and disconnected. And so we wanted to create this to create a vision of what a shared regional network could look like if there was one built in the future. So one of the first priorities we did was we focused on doing interviews and focus groups. So the SRDC staff identified and conducted 25 interviews and focus groups throughout our 9-county region. So we were very intentional. We wanted to pick groups and individuals throughout all 9 counties. And so out of those 25, at least 2 or 3 are from individuals from each county. And so we interviewed county engineers, city staff, trails groups. You know, I think we hit up some Lions clubs, some things like that. You know, we just tried to hit as many as we could throughout all 9 counties so we could get a good sampling of people throughout our region. These sessions allowed participants to share their perspectives, concerns, and ideas. The information that was gathered through these focus groups interviews helped us to refine our trail plan and ensure that it aligns with the community's needs and aspirations. Second main item that we focused on was a corridor scoring. And so we said, all right, so we've got all these trails in different parts of our region. And so if we were to come up with different corridors to try to connect some of them to have a shared network, so to speak, we need to find a way to prioritize that list. And so we came up with a scoring method, and in our detailed full report, you'll be able to see, which we're going to be sending out to all of our commissioners. We'll get a copy of that in our 9 counties. You'll be able to see the criteria that we used in the scoring method that we went through. But a lot of it was based off of 4 sections. So we had a deliverability section, we had a community support section, we had so we kind of looked at all these different sections to say, okay, have they had trails in the past? Has people, decision makers, county commissioners, county engineers, city officials, the community, have they had support for trails in the past? Is there support for trails moving forward? So we had to kind of take that all into account when we scored what quarters we thought would do the highest. And so that graph that's included in there, I'll kind of go through it a little bit. So green is primary, blue is secondary, and then the purple indigo is third tier corridor. And really the 2 corridors that scored the highest, the highest scoring one was actually from Jackson to Okoboji, Spirit Lake area. That scored the highest. And then the second highest was our corridor associated with the Casey Jones State Trail. And that includes, going all the way from Laverne up to Pipestone over to Lake Chetek State Park, and then up from Lake Chetek State Park up into the Redwood Falls area. And so those were our 2 highest scoring corridors. The third highest scoring one was the Laverne over to Sioux Falls area. And you can see that on your map there on the left-hand side. So in their regional trail system, It's not there yet, but they eventually want to get to Garrettson through their plan, through their regional plan. And so that corridor would be somehow to connect Laverne to Garrettson. And then once you connect to Garrettson, then you're connected into their regional network. But again, that scored very highly, but it's one that really doesn't exist at this moment. There's no way to get to Garrettson from Sioux Falls and there's currently nothing from Laverne to Garrettson, right? So, but I want to let you know that's what that third corridor was there. So, the Casey Jones State Trail has a lot of great segments. And there's been some good work, some good progress made the last couple of years. And so we really feel that this plan really highlights how our region needs to keep that momentum going, build that connection from where it is now in Woodstock all the way over to Slayton, and then eventually from Slayton to Lake Chetek State Park to where the 6 mile loop is there. And so that's really our key. That was one of our key findings was to work towards everyone in all of our decision makers, all of our stakeholders in our 9 counties to work towards finishing that segment. The one from Jackson to Okoboji, we identified would be a really great corridor for working for regional designation through the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission. And some folks down there already started that process to reach out to them, and they're going to be applying for regional designation later this fall, early this winter. So there's been some good movement and some good goals that have been identified through this plan. You can flip over to the second side of the handout there. So I'll talk about our trail counts. Through the summer of 2023, so last summer, the staff placed trail counters throughout the region in locations determined by our stakeholders group, and with the desire to have a counter in each of our 9 counties. Again, we wanted to be intentional, trying to gather as much data throughout the 9 counties that we could. And so the table number 2 there on the right-hand side shows you those trail counts. The 3 highest counted areas or trails in our region were the city of Laverne around Okabena Lake, the city of Laverne with their loop, and then the city of Marshall, the Camden Regional Trail. All those scored over 100 people a day. That was their average. Some of our other
I'm surprised you didn't have one on the Casey Jones, going east of Pipestone,
Where was it for here? We did
Indian Lake Trail.
Yeah, and I'm not sure on the location of that one because this was before my time.
It's the small loop.
Right. So, but we were able to purchase 2 counters through this grant. And so we could install counters in the future on the Casey Jones. That would be a great way to get counts from them. Especially now that's a little bit longer.
Just be interesting to see how that would compare to these top 3.
It would. Yes, it would. Yep, for sure. I know like the one in, so the one below Marshall was the city of Curry. That was on the Casey Jones loop. That was on that 6 mile loop. But yeah, we should definitely do a counter next summer on this Casey Jones State Trail over here, and we could get a good sense of ridership.
I was gonna say, I've talked to Stacy Burmeister, who owns Stacy's Bar and Grill in Woodstock, and she said since the trail has gotten to Woodstock, she's gotten more.
Yeah, she
traffic
has seen
for business.
people. Yep, she has seen bikers and people that are making their way over there. Yep. So, and we have talked in the past about how now that it's all the way to Woodstock, the length is a little bit longer, and so for bikers to go out and back again, it's a nice distance now that it's a little bit further out. So, and you get to make that connection with Woodstock. So,
As you know, just a week ago yesterday, we had that ribbon cutting.
yeah, the ribbon cutting. Yeah.
Was there. And we had some riders, you talk about Sioux Falls, we had some riders that specifically came from Sioux Falls for that trail. And again, how it is regional. That's the whole concept of this.
Right. Correct. Yep. So the counts, so you've got those counts there. So, I mean, we were really surprised with a couple of these counts. The city of Laverne, they've started doing their counts since 2017 or 2018. And as they've finished their loop, their numbers have gone up and up and up. They've done very well there. They also achieved regional designation with their loop and up to Blue Mountain State Park. Sounds very exciting for them.
Excuse me, but how do they count? Do they count? It's not, obviously not a bike counter.
It's a heat sensor, yeah, on the counter. Yep, it's a heat sensor. So, the counters.
Walkers and joggers too?
It does count walkers and joggers. There is You can do a bike tube that connects to the counter that lays flat on the ground. And so it does, you do have the possibility to differentiate between walkers and bikers.
In deer.
Yeah, and deer. It wouldn't, yeah, the heat sensor doesn't pick up smaller animals because we place it at a higher height. So, but it would, yeah, it would pick up deer, but it wouldn't pick up like smaller animals like raccoons or something like that. So, but yeah, so there is a way to differentiate that. But as for our report, we didn't differentiate between bikers and walkers for our report. It was just general trail users. The numbers were there, so. And then the final part I want to report on today is our tourism marketing survey results. And so to get kind of an estimate of spending by trail users, we conducted a survey which received 238 responses throughout the 9 counties. Well, 238 responses in our survey. 147 of those were reported as being residents of Southwest Minnesota, and 86, so about 37%, responded being visitors. And visitors came from Sioux Falls, a couple from Iowa, but the majority of these visitors' responses were from Mankato and from the cities. So on average, trail users who are residents reported spending $125.80 per person per trip. Meanwhile, visitors reported spending $216.90 per person per trip. And the table is down there below for you. So residents, dining out was their highest expenditure, while visitors spent the highest amount on lodging. Respondents identified themselves as living in the region, which our region is geographically quite large. And so, you know, they can travel more than an hour or two. I always give the example of I live in Marshall. And so a few times my wife and I, what we've done is we've gone down to Laverne and just kind of like a date activity. And so we rent the e-bikes, go around the loop, and then we usually go to Take 16 and have dinner. And so for us, we're in the region, but we're traveling, we're spending money. And so that's where I think the dining out, the restaurants and bars, that makes a lot of sense for people in the region because, like I said, if you're going to another town, maybe an hour and a half away, maybe you're doing some grocery shopping, maybe you're eating out at a restaurant. So those numbers are there for that. Lodging, our biggest responses for lodging were campgrounds and Airbnbs. A lot of campgrounds. We have a lot of wonderful campgrounds in our region, and that's where a lot of our respondents answered they were spending their time. So Plum Creek Park was a very popular one, but there are also a couple popular ones down in this area as well, and in Jackson County. They just did they did a mountain biking trail over in Jackson County, northwest Jackson County. And we did get quite a few responses from people traveling from Mankato and the Twin Cities to enjoy that. And the majority of them were staying at local campgrounds with their bikes and then driving up to the mountain bike area there and then doing that for a day or so. So I think that has turned out, at least from the feedback we've received in our survey, has turned out really well for that area. They've gotten quite a few visitors from Mankato and the cities into that area to that. So just last little follow-up, we do have our final stakeholder meeting. It is tomorrow at 2 p.m. That's our stakeholder group. That's people from throughout all 9 counties that we identified early on in our process. And so we'll be going through our full report in a lot more detail. And then we'll be taking questions from the stakeholder group. And as I said before, we're currently printing our full report. It's a little over 100 pages, and it'll get mailed out to every county commissioner in our region so you can see that and get a hold of it and check it out. So any questions?
A quick question on the map, you know, the Pipestone looks like probably to Woodstock. Is this as alternate? I'm not following.
Oh, the dotted line there. Yeah. So I didn't touch on that. So there's some alternate routes that we identified that were possible there. So I'll talk about the top 2 really in more detail. So the Laverne to Pipestone dotted line. So there's some efforts right now talking about going after regional designation through the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission to connect Pipestone to Laverne. So that's kind of that dotted line there. So Yeah, whether it goes through the DNR and goes through the state trail, or whether there's a second option of trying to get that regional designation. So that's kind of, there's kind of two options right now that are getting touched on right there. And then the second dotted line up at the top, similar, not shouldn't say all the same, but similar projects. So the Camden Regional Trail is currently in that process of going through regional designation through the Parks and Trails Commission. And so eventually, right now, the trail goes from Marshall down to Camden State Park. Through this process, what they would like to do is, once they go through this designation process, they would like to propose going from Camden State Park down to Russell, and then from Russell down to Twin Lakes County Park. So that's their long-term goal, is stage one, get to Russell, stage two, go to Twin Lakes. And so if they were to accomplish that, then this kind of second dotted line would be in the neighborhood of, going from Twin Lakes State Park down to connect into Casey Jones, somewhere along that line.
So I'm maybe not following
Sure.
quite. So the dotted line from Pipestone to Woodstock, probably on Casey Jones,
Oh, that's what's already in,
is that dotted just because it's already in?
yeah,
place?
yeah, because that's
That's why.
completed. Yep.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't follow you on that one. Sorry. Yeah, so that's completed. Yep, so that's why that isn't highlighted. Sorry.
All of these trails are accommodating to electric bikes.
Yep. And we've talked about in the past that that's probably a really big advantage we have over South Dakota and Sioux Falls, is because they've outlawed, or whatever you want to say, they banned e-bikes on the trail network currently.
Yeah, I question that. You can ride them on Sioux Falls. They're all over the place. They're on the trail.
On the Mickelson Trail bans electric
No, I'm
bikes.
talking Sioux Falls.
Okay, yeah.
Is it just class 2 or 3 or 1 or,
That I don't know offhand.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
But it's for our aging population, electric bikes get you out into the country and get you fresh air.
Oh, it's a good thing. I'm not saying that, but
understand.
they're a lot of
We
them.
want to try and
A
keep
lot
it,
of them run them in Super Bowls.
try to keep it available for electric
You don't want
bikes.
to restrict that.
Yep.
And talk about the route from Pipestone to Laverne, okay, does it go straight or do you go through like Split Rock Creek National Park? And then Jasper's gonna want a loop too, so
Yeah, I
you
mean,
can see where this routing process is
that's probably the biggest hurdle. That's one of the biggest hurdle you first come upon when you're looking at longer trails is property issues and concerns, and then the route. You'd be looking at probably going from Pipestone down to Split Rock probably to touch the sky over to Blue Mounds, and that's very
general, yeah.
That's very general. But that's probably what those are probably the 2 or 3 things you'd want to hit
And Touch
as
the
you went
Sky is
along.
very much worth it. Touch
Yes.
the Sky is very much worth it.
Yeah.
Would most of these run like along a highway?
So it kind of depends. So DNR and the Parks and Trails Commission are a little different, entities that have different ways of going about things. The Regional Parks and Trails Commission does not like doing trails in the right of way. They like to have their trails set back off a road, secluded might be a good word for it. They want people to feel like they're not hearing cars and doing those types of things. DNR isn't quite, let's say, strict with that, we could say. They're a lot more open to having things in the right of way. Really, however they can get it, they're open to it. So yeah, it kind of depends on the agency you're working with.
Seems to be a lot more difficult if it's out of the right of way
Yes.
to get it done, I guess.
And all of them have to be hard surface from now on, or they?
Yeah, a lot of that has to do with the life expectancy of the trail. And so, they want the trail to last so many numbers of years without having to be touched again. And so that's why a lot of times with a lot of these grants, they'll say 10 years, usually is the minimum. Some are even longer than that. And so to do a gravel trail, I think it's hard sometimes to make the argument that this thing's gonna last 10 years without you having to go back and touch it again. And so they think, they say, hey, if you're paving it, you're gonna be good for at least the next 10 or 15 years as a trail before you have to go back and touch it. And with federal grants, it's 20 years. It's a 20-year they won't let you, if you apply for federal funding for a trail through, I forget, it's through TAP, through Transportation Alternatives, you can't apply for that same trail again for 20 more years under federal. You could apply for a state grant, but you can't get federal. So.
And snowmobiles are a non-starter on these trails? Pretty much, huh?
Casey Jones.
I think there's a few,
Side.
like Casey Jones State Trail, they allow like horses and snowmobiles on the side of the trail. I couldn't speak to a lot of the other ones, but I know they do a lot in Casey Jones, so. I think that's a trail by trail.
That's a little different can of worms, right?
Yep.
Yeah, when the DNR came down to visit, they drove their vehicles on the trail.
As long as it wasn't a Hummer or something.
That was pretty close. Yeah.
Suburban, ooh, that's pretty good size. Any other questions for Chris?
Mr. Chairman, I think a good trail route's the old Rock Island Railroad that went through Hardwick and up towards Trotsky and all that. I mean, some of it's been turned into farm field now at this time, but that right of way, technically is still there. And it was made for trains and be good for a trail too.
Those right of ways have been bought by the farmers next to them. You'd
Right.
have to negotiate it back from them.
Rails to trails, isn't that kind of what they
And a
call
lot
it?
of the bridges are gone out of that, so. But that's the good part about Casey Jones. Somebody decided a long time ago to
Keep
say,
that total.
did you check into that, Kyle, or tried? Oh, no answers, huh? Somebody thought Vern Long was instrumental in doing that.
Keeping that integral.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's too bad the rest of the counties weren't able to do the same thing.
Who would have thunk you need a bike trail though? 50 years ago, we worked hard enough. We didn't need a bike trail. Any other questions for Chris? Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. And like I said, they will be mailing out those full reports. I would think in the next couple of weeks, you should all be receiving. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Chris.
Kyle. Morning, Kyle.
This morning, we are looking at purchasing or getting approval to purchase a 40-yard lot. Part of our collection program at our household hazardous waste building is triple rinse chemical jugs, the 2.5 gallons typically. Landowners who do their own spraying. Right now, we get a fair number of jugs, but we really don't have anywhere to go with them, so we put them on the floor. Overflow is into the soil and water building, which it's not real accommodating for that either. So I was looking at purchasing a 40-yard roll-off. Have landowners that bring them in on Wednesdays, would self-load them into the roll-off. And then once a year, we could take them over to Slayton where they're baled. It would just be a nice enclosed container. Did talk to Nate at the highway department. He does feel he'll have a location to put the roll-off. That's kind of out of the way. So I did go out and get quotes. They're very similar in price, 6,200 from a company in Oklahoma. If you don't look at the shipping, and then it's 6,223 from the cities, but their shipping is much less. So talking with the solid waste committee, I think our recommendation to the board would be to purchase the 40-yard roll-offs from Waste Quip. We won't need it until next spring, but we are anticipating cost likely to increase if we wait longer. So figured we might as well just go ahead and purchase it now. Any questions?
What was the location of that company? Waste Clip? Is that one in Oklahoma?
Is out of Rosemont
Okay,
in Minnesota.
Okay.
So that's where we purchased our last cardboard roll-off from.
yeah. And the shipping, from there, how expensive is that?
$850.
$850, okay.
And then the quote that I've got shows tax. I did send in our tax exempt form, so they would be taking off that $486 tax.
And you said that this is, has a top on it, it's an enclosed.
Nope, it is not. It would be an open top. It would be the 8 foot, it'd be the taller ones. So the 8 foot walls,
Okay,
22 feet long with just a swinging door. And then I would likely buy a tarp or something to put over top of it as it's getting filled, just to keep that.
that's
tarp.
what I was wondering about with
Yeah.
rain and snow and so forth getting in there. So you think tarp it?
I think so. I mean, the winter, we likely wouldn't be using it, so I would leave the tarp off. It would just be for the summer.
That makes sense. And you wouldn't have to have, you'd have an open end on it with the tarp. You wouldn't have to tarp the entire thing.
The only issue we've got, and I did talk to Van Dyke's, Slayton's building over there isn't real accommodating for roll-offs to lift up and dump out. It should work out, but that'll be the only challenge that we'll have. But Lyon County currently is doing that with their containers and it's working, so.
And Slayton would be the final destination. You wouldn't be going to Millennium with those.
Nope, there is like, right now it's Slayton, because Slayton bails them, they do get reimbursed from Department of Ag. The bales that are bailed in Slayton go down to Iowa, who is Minnesota's vendor for those type of jugs. So they are reimbursed through the Department of Ag for the collection of those jugs.
And I'm sorry for such a late date, but thought, is a shredder a possibility for that?
Department of Ag used to come around with shredders. It was a mobile shredder. The problem with shredders is once you've shred them, they're not as, they don't bale the same. So you've got different issues there with the baling of the shredded material. So I don't expect us to ever get a shredder. Right now, regionally for the Solid Waste Commission, we're working with the company out of Lennox to see about collecting different types of plastics, the Little Tykes toys, things like that. Trying to collect those, get them to a regional facility like Slayton or somewhere else, get them baled, and then ship them to them and they process them into fence posts. The problem is how much time and effort do you spend segregating one type of material when we are not the collection point to benefit from the landfill space? So some counties have transfer stations where they're able to separate materials. Others have landfills where they'll hand pick materials out. But for us, the company down there is willing to buy us balers or do other things, but when you start thinking about staff time, and then you've got a container that people are gonna self-dispose of material in is gonna turn into a disastrous dumping station.
Well, I can, even with the triple rents, I can imagine there's still gonna be some residual in those.
There is. The nice part is that through the collection of the hazardous waste program on Wednesdays, Trevor would be able to police that more so. So we aren't gonna have people self-dumping during the week. It would only be on Wednesdays. And that's the reason for having it kind of located further back at the highway department, so the public doesn't see it.
Back to the tarp then. So have you got a source for that?
I don't right now.
Okay.
I haven't looked into that yet.
Okay.
But there's a lot of them out there, I believe. And there's adequate funds in the solid waste reserve for the purchase of the roll-off. And I will be coming back to the board with that solid waste assessment increase at a later date too. So that was the other reason for having that increase, is to keep an adequate reserve to buy things like this.
This is a great option for farmers to get rid of their junk.
And we need to promote it more. Right now, we're not getting probably the majority of them. A lot of them are still getting burnt or buried.
That's the deal.
Yep.
Getting burned,
We do need to promote this program more, especially now that we'll have a container to store them.
especially if everybody knows that it's free.
Yep.
Just that it's, okay, you gotta bring them on a Wednesday morning.
Right.
So,
But I know I mentioned that at every regional solid waste meeting, that we are the only county in the area that provides our HHW collection weekly for free at no
Yep.
additional charge, besides the solid waste assessment fee, which is on their property taxes. And I think every county should do that, but most of them use that money for staff costs instead.
But it's great to give our people an option, like you say, instead of throwing them in the fire.
Yep.
Or regular garbage.
For sure, I'd move for approval of this.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're doing bills?
Yeah, get it done. Mr. Chairman, what I have here is a board ratification statement for Minnesota County's computer collaborative. This goes back decades, back to the old days. Some of you might remember CPUI, turned into CPT over the years. And this is for the Auditor Treasurer's Office and assessors. It's for their financial systems that we have. On page 2, at the bottom, you'll see Pipestone County. SCC stands for Mid-States Computer Cooperative. That's an old, now it's called Mid-State Computer Collaborative. That was changed back in 2018 to that. So I went back and found some data on their site on that. So this is for our Auditor Treasurer's Office for the IFS tax systems and those programs that we use that integrate with the PCs through the AS 400. HR is in there, but this part of it is just basically for our fees to take care of IFS for the Auditor Treasurer's Office and the Assessor's Office at this point. So this originally came out in earlier this summer, and I don't know where it came to, but finally it came to Amanda last week that said we hadn't taken action on this, and nobody actually ever received it. I checked, never got it, but we actually have it now. So basically what we're doing is we're approving the Tri-Min contract. And what you have on page 2 are the support fees, level wide for it. For all of the different organizations that are in what they're looking at their fees they're planning on taking in for the next 3 years. So this would be for 25 and 27. And you note that our costs for 25 auditor treasurers were 72,4522. The enhancement fund is $1,000 and 25 would be 82,4522. And we'd see increase in ours of 18.36. So I would recommend that the board approve this, ratify this statement so we can get it back to MCCC and move forward with it. It's not like we're going to be changing our systems or anything. This is for support. When there's issues, they do the upgrades to the software. And if we have issues, we call in and get support for the tax system, assessing system, what they need to do on it. I hope I didn't beat it up too bad, but that's pretty much what it is.
Mr. Chair, I'll
It's
move that
not
we
exciting.
approve the expenditure then for our membership fees. Now, is it the 2,000 per county or the 1,000 per office for us? It's apparently it's 1,000.
We are at annual fee is 1,000 per office and 2,000 per county, and we are doing 1,000 per office. It appears to me.
That's what I understood as well too. So, yep. Anyway, so moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second for that?
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
What's the total again? The total of the,
82,4522.
oh, that's okay. They were talking
82,4522, correct.
Oh, I just, yeah, double checking. Okay. Okay, gotcha.
Any other discussion?
Budgeted item also.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Not carried.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have to wait 2 weeks. Back page, we have Southwest 18 Adult Mental Health Consortium governing board bylaws and the joint powers agreement and the executive committee bylaws as well. You recall at our last meeting, county attorney reviewed these, reported back that they were okay to approve and move forward with. Recommend approval of the governing board bylaws, the joint powers agreement, and the executive committee bylaws as presented.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we do approve and enter into this joint powers agreement.
Your support for that? Second. Thank you. Any other discussion?
Somewhat related, I'm designated as primary at this point. We don't have officially designated the alternate, so I guess I would recommend Doug, if you'd be willing to be alternate for that, if it's all right with the rest of you guys, we should. Because in the joint powers, it talks about the alternates, so.
That included in your motion?
I don't know if it has to be, does it?
No, it shouldn't have to be.
No.
Take up the motion first and then discuss the.
Yep.
Was there a second, Steve?
Yeah, Doug seconded the motion for the agreement.
Any other discussion on this? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Carried. Now a matter of an alternate.
I think you as chair can just appoint, can you not? How does that work, Steve?
Do by motion or chair can appoint.
Are you willing to take that on?
Yes, go ahead.
I appoint Doug Nagel. So be it.
Yeah.
He'll be the alternate, correct?
Yep.
Appointment of member to the Lincoln Pipestone Rural Water Board.
Mr. Chairman, I received a letter from Lincoln Pipestone Rural Water, and they are recommending appointments of 3 members to the board: Janice Moen, Ryan Blum, and Mr. Jeff Davis be appointed to the Lincoln Pipestone Rural Water Board of Commissioners for a 4-year term, and they do list Janice Moen's term expires December 31st of 24, so that'll be a reappointment. Here's that,
Ryan Blum would be
there are
replacing
2 new members.
Brent. Jeff like him.
Ryan and Jeff are 2 members, so I have resolution 59-23-24, resolution requesting the appointment of Janet and Ryan Blum Davis be appointed to the board for term January 25 through December 31st of 28.
Chair, move for approval.
Second.
9-23-24.
23, okay.
You're not looking at that.
That's why I saw that. 23, so it is the separate one. Yep.
I can speak to Ryan Blum. He's a great candidate for this. He's the same age as my son, and he's had a struggle with cancer and he's beat it, and he's in a wheelchair, but he's still very active on his acreage and on the boards that are listed here, so.
Who seconded the motion again, please? Luke, thank you.
Yeah, they all seem very qualified.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried.
Want to go ahead? Take 5?
We'll keep going. Son just went to the emergency room, but I think they can take care of him there, so.
What's that?
My son just went to the emergency room, so I think they can take care of him. I don't need to be there.
Okay.
What we got is
Save the best for last.
what, Chris's committee reports? I'm sorry.
No.
Steve, you're up.
Budget and levy, let's talk about this. I did make up a sheet for you to kind of follow along with some different changes that I made. And if everyone did get a copy of the 116 page document, so you can do that, 119 page actually. You need to take a look at that. I will do an adjustment to the 201 budget to represent the fees that we'll get from the school district. Forward to in that. So basically where I started out, the first one that I handed out to you a few weeks ago. And we were at 2% on that. So done some working. Numbers. Move things around. Started at 14.2, then I ended up at about 10.7, then I ended down at about 9.8. And finally, I was down to 9.47, 9.733, and that's where I'm kind of the percentage of increase for the preliminary. Just some things to consider in the 003 account, I have budgeted for an income of 260,000 in interest. I don't know if that will be correct or not moving forward. 25, it's hard to know what interest rates will do, so I did list that as unknown, but feel comfortable at this time leaving it at that unless the board has any specific issues with the number that I put there and think we should reduce it. But we have lots of money in investments. Amanda has been doing a good job putting money in the Magic Fund, which has definitely given us some increases in revenue of our interest income, which is good to see. And even in her CD rate, she's seen some good increases in CD rates. If you take a look at the monthly financials that come through, so you get to see that. So I'm feeling pretty comfortable going forward with that at this point. So these are all up for comment as we go through here. So please don't hesitate to, have discussion on these. In general revenue, I did cut out the $250,000 is basically my placekeeper that I put in this year. Took that out of there to get the levy down below double digits. And when I went back for the 2023 audit, at that time in 23 going into 24, we had $4.3 million in reserves that are not allocated in general revenue, in revenue. So we do have reserves if something would come up instead of putting it on as a levy. Commissioner Johnson brought this up at the last meeting to consider that. Let's take a look at it. So I removed that out of there. And so again, we can use reserves if needed. If an emergency situation comes up, we can spend instead of just putting it on the levy. So that was my thought press on that, using your ideas for discussion on it. On the attorney's budget, I had some budgetary numbers that were wrong. The salary was too high. I still do have it budgeted at a 10% increase to a salary. That would move him from about 90,000 to 100,000 is where he'd be. About 101,000 is where he'd end up. The board will make that decision in December when we have the meeting and determine what the sheriff and the county attorney's salary will be, but leaving it in here as a placeholder at this time. I'm in the process of getting information from around the area and around the region to get salaries that are comparable for sheriffs and attorneys. So I'll have that information going forward. But at this time, I'd recommend we leave that the way it is. I did adjust, I had the wrong salary amount in there for him. So those adjustments for salary, PERA, Social Security, Medicare, those were all downward reduced to reflect the change in salary. And he still requested the 70,000 for the assistant county attorney in there, which he came to the meeting and I left that in there. So there were reductions to the county attorney's budget based on my salary that I had in there was way too, I was at it like, it started at 127,000. I had just absolutely the wrong numbers from last year. So that has been brought down. I talked to Casey on the ambulance, the 283 will reduce and take out the 185,000 that she put in the budget for 24. And we will use her reserve funding, which she has 230, should be another 0 there, 230,000 in the reserve fund in the ambulance. She's anticipating it will cost about 185,000 to purchase the new one. So we don't need to levy for the ambulance replacement for 25. So we took that out of there. So again, since we have 230 in the fund and she's been putting in approximately 55 to 65,000 a year to help fund those on a 5-year rotation is what she's been doing on that.
Casey, you're here. Do you want to make any adjustment, any statement to that or?
Yep.
Okay.
Makes real good sense.
I didn't want to ignore you in the back of the room there. So.
You want to come forward and get on TV? Come on up. Okay. So. Am I right? 55,000 you're putting in annually, that number? Okay, perfect. Okay. So, should be able to use that. That would ultimately take care of your cot too, right? And everything you need to put in that other cot and truck?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
The next one when we.
Okay. So there's a reduction there. In the 392, this is the one I'm talking about here is the restricted fund. This is a non-levy. Kyle brought this up, but the solid waste assessment is going to be recommended to show an $8 increase into 25 from 36 to 44, and that's non-levy. So that's not an issue that the board has to take up at this point. It does not affect our bottom line on the levy on that. I adjusted his salaries. I had the wrong numbers in for Kyle's. Originally, I hadn't split them in 3. So a third of his comes from the solid waste, which is the non-levy side of the solid waste fund, and also the 103 planning and zoning department, and also the 604 ag inspection. Those 2 are levy departments. So those showed up properly going forward in the budget. 501 museum budget, reduced that slightly. I had a larger number for the appropriation. They requested $2,500 increase for a 2.5% increase to the appropriation. So I reduced it basically by $1,000. The library increased slightly for a 3% increase for requested funding in 2025. Pipestone, due to that increase, would receive $48,420 from the county, and Edgerton would receive $32,280. That percentage is split on a 60-40% basis, and there's no change to Plum Creek. They requested the same amount as 24 at $32.50. So it was a small increase there. 701 economic development, the board requested to put in $1,000 for the Southwest Crisis Center. That has been added. Health insurance costs, we've already gone through that. So I've already discussed that this morning, so I don't think I need to go over that again. Salaries and benefits for 25, we're in the 2nd year of our 2-year contract with our unions. There will be a 4% general increase to the pay plans in 2025 and approximately 2.5 to 2.7 between steps if the employee is not at the end of the scale on a 12-step pay plan. The board will have to take up the non-union and department head and appointed employees later in the season before we get to the December. And I did put in there that would recommend that at this point we do not appropriate funds for the food shelf as a charitable organization. I've been thinking about that, and maybe the board, you have as board members too, that I think there are many, many charitable organizations within our counties and cities that we could help with that. It would be very difficult for us to start giving to one and then not doing others as well. The only option I would think it would be maybe a one-time and say this is, one-time donation if there was a special need or something like that. I do know that they were also going to the city of Pipestone and asking for funding as well, and I have no idea where they're at on that. But I've opened that for discussion if the board has any comments on that. I appreciate it.
I share your train of thought on that.
Hard to know when to start and when to stop.
And if we did that for Pipestone, obviously we'd need to do it for Edgerton, but we have so many, again, charitable organizations that do very well and rely on donations and things like that. But if, once we start, I think we'd have a hard time saying no.
Bradford dealt, but it just is not really in our capabilities to support that financially.
So on my levy spreadsheet you have with all the yellow markings, yellow highlights on there, it's pretty much all the different areas that I talked about today as well. And so where I'm at today is I'm looking at a total levy at this time, being this is the proposed of total of 9,829,595. And this does account for the changes to Nick's budget as well. He did add some items and then did take away as well, and he reported that very well at the last meeting we were at. So that stayed virtually no changes since the last meeting we had. So he'd be at county revenue would be 6,209,597. Road and bridge would be 1,829,552. Social services would be 1,790,446 for a total levy on the proposed of 9,829,595. Last year's final levy at the end of the year was 9,185,317. That comes back as a 7.33% increase in the levy for 2024's or 2025's proposed levy and budget. And again, remember that we have time now to, if you approve this, we have time to reduce it, but we cannot in there.
Well, from where we were a month ago, Steve, thank you so much for your diligence sharpening the pencil, because I was quite concerned about the 14%.
Yeah, I always start high.
That's right.
I'd much rather be doing this. Oh, by the way.
Scare us right away and.
We've been played.
Double check my levy amount from 2024 and made sure that was correct from the final, not like I had the error in the last year where, yeah, I used the preliminary levy instead of the final, so I double checked that. Triple checked that. So.
I feel pretty confident in the numbers that we've got here. We certainly aren't going to be so frugal that we can't operate next year, but at the same time, we're not squandering either. So I think the job that you've done with the department heads and you guys as well too, I think we've been very responsible to this, and I feel very comfortable with this. You're looking for
Comfortable enough to make a motion?
I was gonna say, and you need a specific motion. I will move that we approve this preliminary budget that is going to shake out to basically a 7.33% increase.
Is there a second for that?
Okay.
Thanks, Chris. Any other discussion? I too am comfortable with the 7.
Yep.
Considering all the ones that we have to raise, the unions and the whatever.
All that.
Mr. Chairman, also I'm seeing emails coming in from around the area and around the state from other counties, and 5 to 7 to 9% are not unusual right now. I mean, given the costs of everything we're purchasing, labor, insurance, everything that we have to deal with, it's just going to be there.
Big counties up in the Minneapolis area too are 9 to 12, I've read, so it's just cost more nowadays.
And you'll hear more about it when we have the next AMC meeting too, where everybody's at too, and we're up in.
And just a comment that for some nearby counties that always brag about, having a 0 or near 0 increase, we are not spending from reserves, nor do we incur any debt like some of those counties do. So, it's easy to have a 0 levy increase when you're using borrowed money, but that's not a good way to run anything. So.
Any other questions, comments about the preliminary budget levy? All in favor?
Steve for his hard work.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried. And I agree. Thanks, Steve, for your hard work in this area and
And everybody do
Mhm.
work. What we do and we work together on this, so.
Well, and also with their advanced planning, case in point, your reserve that you had for that ambulance we had to purchase. Instead of that, you set aside money as the years go by, so when it comes time to have to do it, we don't have to hit the levy, so very good.
one general question, the general revenue reserves, the $4 million. Does that include the specific, like highway department reserves for equipment later, or is that, that's all separate?
Just revenue, that's.
Yep.
That's revenue. He has his own budget and so.
So we don't include her reserves either for an ambulance in this number. Well, that's good. You know, you could make that number look a lot bigger if you used all those other numbers, but it's not fair to them for budgeting their.
Those
doing
were-
good work, but
Specific list though is unallocated funds
that's all unallocated.
in revenue,
No, good,
funds.
good.
I think they're just about done with the 24 budget now, or audit, so we should have that next 30 days. Hopefully we can get that on the board agenda. Mr. Chairman, the last thing I have is to set the truth and taxation meeting. We have an interesting month of December coming up. The normal second Tuesday meeting is during the AMC conference, so that has to be changed. And then our fourth meeting is actually Christmas Eve day. The last time this happened was back in 2019. We had a Christmas Eve day, so we did not meet on those. Obviously, at this time, we won't be meeting due to the AMC conference as well. So recommending that as far as the meeting goes, we'll set the regular board meeting for Tuesday, December 3rd. So I'm looking at first and third Tuesdays
instead of-
for board meeting.
That sounds great.
We don't have to make that decision now, but we do have to set the truth and taxation meeting. So if we have the board meeting on Tuesday, the 3rd, we would have Tuesday evening, the 3rd, have the TNT meeting. The City of Pipestone's meeting is Monday, the 2nd. So recommendation would be to set the TNT meeting for December 3rd at 7 o'clock. And then set the date to approve the final levy at the county board meeting, which would be a special meeting changed to the holiday of Christmas Eve, December 17th, 2024. My recommendations. If you have other recommendations, I'm all ears too.
Sounds good to me.
Could you those for me again?
No,
quickly, sir? So Tuesday, the 3rd, our regular meeting in the morning, and then TNT in the evening.
Correct.
Okay. And then the other one is gonna be on the 17th, regular.
Yep, regular meeting.
Yep.
So. So if you're in agreement with the dates and times that I have set for the truth and taxation meeting, that's really ultimately what we have to do today, and also set the final levy. That's our last meeting. We have to do those two things. So it would be a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we set that we change our board meeting, the regular board meeting, to the 1st and 3rd Tuesday for December. And then also we set the truth and taxation then for December 3rd at 7 PM.
Okay, is there support for that?
There is.
Supported by Luke. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried. Anything else coming before this board? Today. Paying a motion to adjourn? Your support for that?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Carried. We are adjourned. Steve has something he wants to do yet.